Craig Carton's co-host comes out and compares Caitlin Clark to Jeremy Lin / Linsanity. He's comparing a 4-year run to a 4-month overachiever. This is bad. I've seen some bad comparisons when people try to diminish and take shots at CC. I feel like I've seen it all. But this Linsanity comparison...
I have witnessed plenty of terrible takes trying to undermine Caitlin Clark's achievements, and I honestly thought I had heard everything. However, this recent comparison to Linsanity has caused an absolute storm across the sports community. The basketball world watched a grown commentator completely lose his composure on a national radio broadcast, and Caitlin's calm response to the hostility speaks volumes about who she is as a person. This was not a standard sports critique. It was a harsh, aggressive attempt to destroy her reputation in a single moment. Basketball enthusiasts are stunned after a well-known radio personality went completely out of bounds, matching the biggest name in women's basketball to a short-lived backup player. The attack felt incredibly personal, deeply resentful, and like someone trying to settle an imaginary score. It leaves everyone asking the identical question: what could Caitlin possibly have done to deserve this?
The Linsanity run has come to an end. You want to talk about hot takes? You want to talk about bad takes? You want to talk about ridiculous takes? Well, congratulations, Mr. Johnson, because this one takes the cake. Let's get right into it, shall we? Like the video, hype the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. The Caitlin Clark thing is over because she's not the best player in the WNBA. She's not even the best guard.
The individual speaking into the microphone serves as a co-host on the Craig Carton show. He did not just cross the line. He raced right past it while the principal host was taking some time off. A classic case of substitute teacher syndrome took over, and the broadcast turned remarkably dark in a matter of moments. Staring straight into the lens, he boldly claimed that the era of Caitlin Clark is officially over. He did not limit his critique to her basketball talents either. He went after her personality, her personal circles, and her overall influence on women's hoops. The entire tirade seemed driven by deep, personal frustration, making the audience wonder if they were listening to actual sports reporting or a therapy appointment gone completely off the rails. The backlash happened almost instantly, and the sports media landscape is still recovering from the impact.
Jeremy Lin. This is just Linsanity. She's gonna fumble this. Caitlin Clark hurt this man's feelings. Caitlin Clark hurt this man's feelings. She walks out with Morgan Wallen at a concert. It hurt this man's feelings so much, he thought to himself, how can I take a jab at Caitlin Clark? How can I take a shot at CC22? I know what I'll do. I'll compare her to Linsanity. I'll put her and...
He stood there and compared a generational basketball phenom who has been dominant for 4 consecutive seasons to a mere 4-week hot streak. He boldly argued that her career is nothing more than the second coming of Linsanity, a brief, hyper-focused craze that is finally coming to an end. Suggesting that Caitlin Clark is just an ordinary athlete who caught a lucky break for a few months is more than just a terrible opinion. It is a deliberate insult. Jeremy Lin provided an incredible, heartwarming story for basketball fans, but equating a global icon who literally transformed the financial reality of her entire sport to a bench player who had one hot month is absolute madness. It displays a total disregard for everything she has accomplished since her freshman season at Iowa. The host was clearly trying to provoke a massive reaction, and he succeeded, though not in the way he intended.
And it's because of 2 things. Who would have thought? She decided to roll up with Morgan Wallen. Morgan Wallen says the N-word liberally, says it more than I do, and I'm black, and her bitching and moaning to the refs nonstop. But when we look back on this, we'll go, this girl had the world by the balls. She had everybody loving her. People who hate women's sports were tuning in just for her. And when we look at Jeremy Lin and look at her, we're going to find out that at the end of the day, it was the exact same thing.
For more entertaining...
Damn. I feel the hurt in his voice.
The actual root of this harsh verbal assault appears to have absolutely nothing to do with the game of basketball. The commentator was visibly frustrated by Caitlyn making an appearance alongside Morgan Wallen at a concert, and he simply could not separate his personal biases from his professional broadcasting role. He launched into an angry lecture regarding Wallen's past public missteps, utilizing those issues as a tool to undermine Caitlyn's position as a positive role model for young fans. It was a bizarre, sudden pivot that revealed what was truly motivating his anger. He was not breaking down her jump shot mechanics or her elite floor vision. Instead, he was passing judgment on her private life to back up his claim that she is wasting her stardom. It was an incredible stretch that left listeners feeling deeply uncomfortable, sounding like a man personally offended by a stranger's concert choice.
A 4-week run. He came out of nowhere and had a 4-week run. Caitlin Clark is the #1 person on every team's scouting report for the last 2 years at Iowa, her rookie season, her sophomore. For the last 4 years, she's been the #1 person on every team's scouting report. Couldn't be further than Jeremy Lin. As soon as Jeremy Lin was #1 on the team scouting report, what did the Miami Heat do? What did LeBron James?
Furthermore, he doubled down on the narrative that the Caitlin Clark phenomenon is finished simply because she has not become the top player in the WNBA yet. This argument features a logical flaw so massive you could easily drive a bus right through it. No serious analyst ever expected a rookie to immediately surpass a superstar like Aya Wilson, but that does not mean Caitlin's massive impact is some sort of fluke. The broadcaster went on to claim she is not even the premier guard from her own draft class, pointing to Paige Bueckers as the truly exceptional talent. It was the oldest trick in the book, praising one female athlete solely to tear another one down. By attempting to force a rivalry between these two young stars, he showed a desperate desire to build any storyline that frames Caitlyn as a disappointment. It was pure rage bait meant to upset fans and downplay the historic rookie season she had just wrapped up.
And Caitlin Clark was 27-6 her opening game. Let's just say 27-6. If she's 27-6 the rest of her career, she's a Hall of Famer. That 27-6, Paige Bueckers might not even be better than her whole entire average each season for her career. Caitlin Clark's ability to play make puts her above Paige Bueckers. Neither are good defenders. Paige Bueckers is also...
There is a massive, undeniable difference between a brief 4-week hot streak and a dominant 4-year reign at the top of the sport. When LeBron James and the Miami Heat focused their defense to shut down Linsanity, the phenomenon was effectively finished in a single night. They completely locked him up, and he never truly regained his status as a top-tier star. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, has successfully navigated that exact level of defensive intensity every single night for several years. She has been constantly double-teamed, picked up full court, and targeted with intense physical play, yet she continues to produce elite numbers. Comparing her career path to a player who reverted to being a standard role player after a single month is factually inaccurate. It ignores the clear reality that Caitlyn has operated as a true superstar under an intense public microscope since her teenage years. She did not appear out of nowhere. She earned her success piece by piece.
The rookie and the comp is Jeremy Lin. Some people really only talk about the W when there is an opportunity to grift. I used to think it would fade as the 2024 class plays more, and now I've accepted this all the content creators want to do. This is inspired, LMO. Bravo, yeah, inspired. Yeah, that's the man that was hurt. That's the man that felt hurt, felt betrayed, and needed to go on a rant to make himself feel better because Caitlin Clark hurt his feelings. Craig, get a hold of your boy, Craig. Come on, man. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video.
The commentator's fixation on Paige Bueckers feels like a convenient shield to mask his personal prejudice. He argued that Paige is the superior player simply because her squad won a season-opening matchup, completely ignoring the broader context of their respective basketball journeys. While Paige is undeniably an extraordinary talent, she operates within a highly structured system tailored precisely to her strengths. Caitlin has frequently been asked to carry the weight of an entire franchise on her shoulders while navigating coaching changes and a developing roster learning to adapt to her immense court gravity. Despite those challenges, she earned first-team All-WNBA honors as a rookie. Debating their college careers and draft values is entirely fair, but using it to label Caitlin a fraud turns the analysis into a targeted hit job. It reveals that certain pundits only discuss women's basketball when they can manufacture drama or chase engagement. This host perfectly represents a new wave of media figures who do not actually care about growing women's sports. They only care about the clicks generated by attacking the sport's biggest star. He even acknowledged that traditional critics of women's sports were tuning in solely to see her, yet he somehow views that as a reason to criticize her. He asserts she is fumbling her financial opportunities, but the reality is that she represents the market itself. She generated the viewership, the revenue, and the cultural relevance that commentators like him now rely on for their daily content. It is a parasitic dynamic where he attacks the very figure driving the entire league's news cycle. The broadcaster sounded remarkably like a bitter ex-partner venting over a narrative he can no longer influence. There was an audible tremor of hurt in his voice as he complained about her concert attendance and her supposedly fading skills, oozing a strange sense of personal betrayal. Why should it matter to him which artist she accompanies at a music venue?
As you can imagine, he's
Why
getting
does he
dragged.
feel compelled to minimize a debut season that ranks statistically as the finest rookie
Anybody remember
campaign
when the
in
world
basketball
looks
history?
like when not
When you
every
look
idiot on
past
the
the
planet
loud
had a
rhetoric,
podcast, they shared
you
on
see a
social media with some
commentator
stupid shit.
terrified that the sport is evolving without his approval. He is watching a young woman captivate a global audience, and his only
What
instinct
NBA
is to
records
try
did
and drag
Jeremy
her
Lin
back
break?
down to his level. Let's examine the actual statistics because numbers do not lie. Jeremy Lin never broke NBA single-season records for points, rebounds, and assists. Caitlin Clark accomplished exactly that during her very first year as a professional. She has achieved milestones that no guard in league history has ever reached, regardless of their years of experience. She is not just playing well for a newcomer. She is performing at an elite level comparable to a seasoned veteran. The Linsanity comparison is so ridiculous it feels engineered to be as dishonest as humanly possible. Jimmer Fredette would have been a closer comparison if he simply wanted to be harsh, but even that would be entirely inaccurate. He selected Lin because it represents the ultimate insult for an athlete aiming for legendary status. The host also overlooked the fact that Caitlin is performing within a system that does not yet maximize her specific style of play. Once she plays under a coach who fully utilizes her off-ball movement and catch-and-shoot talents, her statistical output will expand even further. She is currently delivering historic numbers while restricted to a role that limits her greatest strengths. Imagine what will happen when those tactical limitations are removed and the roster is constructed entirely around her basketball vision. The broadcaster wants audiences to believe we have already witnessed her peak, but the reality is we are still looking at her baseline. He is trying to orchestrate a funeral for a basketball career that is currently enjoying a massive grand opening. The public pushback to this radio segment has been incredibly fast and severe. Both fans and sports analysts are criticizing the host for his lack of objectivity and clear emotional bias. Social media platforms are filled with graphics of Caitlin's records, proving her success is no temporary fluke. Even casual observers who do not actively support Clark are stepping forward to protect the integrity of women's basketball. They see right through the provocative commentary, knowing this specific brand of media coverage holds women's sports back. It is the same familiar narrative of a man in a suit trying to convince a successful woman that she has not truly earned her position. However, the data is far too overwhelming and the fan base is too passionate for his narrative to take hold. There is a profound irony in a radio personality labeling an elite athlete an overachiever. This is an individual who earns a living simply talking into a microphone, attacking a young woman who has dedicated thousands of hours in the gym mastering a skill set that only a tiny fraction of humans can replicate. He spoke about her having the sports world in her hands and then losing her grip, but look at the television ratings. Every single time she steps onto the floor, viewership numbers skyrocket. Every single time her name is mentioned, media engagement spikes. If her moment were truly over, he would not be dedicating 10 minutes of airtime to screaming about her on his program. He validates her incredible relevance with every breath he takes trying to deny it. She is the sun his career orbits, and he simply cannot stand the heat. Furthermore, the comparison to Jeremy Lin completely overlooks the profound cultural impact Caitlyn has made on a whole generation of youth athletes. Linsanity was an incredibly fun chapter in New York sports lore, but Caitlin Clark represents an actual cultural movement. She has fundamentally altered how young girls view the sport of basketball, forcing major television networks to pay attention and corporate sponsors to invest heavily. That level of societal influence does not simply vanish because she attended a country music concert or had a few high-turnover performances during her rookie year. You cannot force the genie back into the bottle. The host is attempting to convince the public that what they are witnessing isn't real, but the completely sold-out arenas tell a vastly different story. Caitlyn has chosen to stay mostly quiet through these aggressive media attacks, preferring to let her performance on the court do the talking. That silence functions as a powerful weapon in its own right. By refusing to engage with every internet commentator or radio host looking for attention, she preserves a standard of class that her detractors clearly lack. She understands that replying to individuals searching for a quick headline only gives them the spotlight they crave. Instead, she keeps her head down and focuses on the grind. That level of maturity is precisely what frightens critics like this broadcaster. They want to see her break down, they want her to react angrily, and they want her to validate their criticisms, but she simply keeps showing up, hitting deep three-pointers, and shattering records. Her sustained excellence remains the definitive reply. His focus on Morgan Wallen was the most revealing element of the entire broadcast. It proved the situation was never about basketball analytics. It was about a traditional media gatekeeper trying to police the personal conduct of a young superstar. He tried to frame the issue as a moral crusade, converting a standard sports segment into a lecture on personal values. It was a clear attempt to uncover a reason to criticize an athlete who is otherwise completely elite on the court. When you cannot critique their athletic performance, you target their personal character. It is the exhausted strategy that modern audiences recognize instantly. It did not diminish Caitlyn's image. It simply made the host look like he was desperately searching for arguments in a storm. The commentator asserted that history will look back and view her career as identical to Linsanity, but we already possess 4 full years of basketball data that proves otherwise. Jeremy Lin was a backup player who caught lightning in a bottle for a single month. Caitlin Clark concluded her college career as the most decorated player in history and immediately followed that up by becoming an All-Star and an All-WNBA selection in her first season. Their career trajectories are not even in the same stratosphere. Suggesting they are equivalent is an admission that you are not actually watching the games. It is a lazy comparison constructed by an individual more focused on creating controversy than delivering accurate analysis. He simply wants the video clip to go viral, and he does not care if he has to distort the truth to make it happen. Even the broadcaster's own studio colleagues appeared visibly stunned by the sheer hostility of his rant. It felt like watching a slow-motion train wreck. You want to look away, but the sheer absurdity of the opinions keeps you completely captivated. He labeled her inferior to Paige Buchers, even though Paige has not logged a single minute of professional basketball yet, banking on a future that has not arrived to minimize a present reality that is currently rewriting the record books. It is a classic case of moving the goalposts. First, critics said her game would not transition to the professional level. It did. Then, they claimed she would not make the All-Star team. She did. Now, the new standard is that she is not instantly Michael Jordan. It is a game designed so she can never win in his eyes, which is the entire purpose of his commentary. The reality is that Caitlin Clark has already succeeded. She has secured her financial future, captured the hearts of fans, and earned the genuine respect of the individuals who actually play professional basketball. The loud shouting from the radio booth is nothing more than background noise in a historic basketball career. This host can yell until he loses his voice, but he cannot alter the official box scores. He cannot alter the reality that she delivered the most statistically dominant rookie season ever recorded, nor can he alter the fact that she is the undisputed face of the league. He is merely a man yelling at a thunderstorm, angry that he is getting wet while the rest of the world stands in awe of the rain. His deep bitterness is the ultimate proof of her incredible success. As her second season draws near, the public pressure will naturally intensify, but her basketball skill set will expand right along with it. If this media host truly believes the Caitlin Clark era is over, he is bound for an incredibly rude awakening. She is only becoming stronger, quicker, and more comfortable with the professional tempo of the game. The minor flaws he highlights are just the standard development phases of a young athlete, not the warning signs of a failing career. He is wagering against the house, and the house always wins in the end. Caitlin has spent her entire life proving doubters wrong, and this recent emotional tirade is simply extra fuel for her competitive fire. He intended to diminish her status, but he likely just provided the exact motivation she needs to elevate her performance to an even higher level. The broader basketball community needs to decide what standard of coverage it wants for the WNBA. Do we want genuine, factual analysis, or do we want this brand of hostile, emotional rage bait? If we permit broadcasters to launch into angry rants without challenging their lack of factual backing, we are failing the athletes themselves. Caitlin Clark deserves fair professional critique just like any other athlete, but she does not deserve to serve as a target for a commentator's personal frustrations. The Linsanity comparison ought to be the final blow to this host's professional credibility. It was an insincere, unkind, and factually backward opinion that has no place in serious sports journalism. The public recognized it for exactly what it was, a desperate play for attention. This is not the conclusion of the narrative. It is simply the start of the next chapter where the stage gets bigger and the stakes get higher. Caitlin Clark has already demonstrated she can navigate intense pressure on the hardwood, and now she is showing everyone how to handle critics in the media. She did not need to shout to break her silence. She did it by becoming completely undeniable. While radio figures continue to hunt for views with emotional tirades, she is quietly rewriting the history books one game at a time. The Linsanity take will go down as one of the most embarrassing opinions in sports history, and when everything is said and done, her greatness will be the only thing people remember.